come to the States. And coaches, it was a terrible experience because you go to your first day of class, and the teacher says to me, "What is your name?" And I say, "What is your name?" I repeated what the teacher said, and everybody laughed. And I said, I took my books and I went home and I said, I want to go back to Costa Rica. People were laughing at me. I didn't know, I didn't understand them. So then my father brought me back and then explained to them that I was new, that it was a new life for us. Fortunately, I was a pretty decent athlete, and I made friends right away. But then there was no soccer, so I used to be in the schoolyard by myself with a soccer ball, and I used to kick it against the wall all the time with the outside of the foot, the inside of the foot. I would get close to the wall, kick it hard, control it with my chest, bring it down, pass with the inside, outside of the foot. So I did a lot of a lot of that until I got to high school, and then in high school. Um, we were all foreigners. George Washington High School. I started in 1958, and in those days, freshmen played with seniors. So you could have a 14-year-old, and they played with 18-year-olds. So the first year we didn't do well. Second year, we went to the finals of the New York City tournament, and we lost to Cleveland High School. Cleveland High School from Queens had all these German kids who were excellent players. Siggy Stritzel was one of them. Siggy played for the national team of the United States, and he also played for the Cosmos. And then in 1960, we won the city championship, and we had players from all over. We had players from Jamaica, from Israel, from Liberia, from Trinidad, Haiti, from all over. But we had a great coach by the name of Arthur Flynn, who knew how to handle us. He was a baseball coach, but he let us play. He gave us a lot of like, you guys can play. You know what to do. So he used to say, how are we going to play? So the captain would say, well, how about a 4-3-3? Because we have a very good center forward, a really good left wing, right wing. So depending on what we had, that's how we played. Because in order in order to play, in order to have a system, you have to be able to have the players for that system. You just can't say, oh, we're going to play like Real Madrid. How are we going to play like Real Madrid if we don't have the guys that feel comfortable with the ball, who are able to make short passes, long passes, who are able to dribble, in designated areas, and that's how that's how we played the game. And then in the summer of 1960, the International Soccer League started with William Cox, and we tried out for this ball boy team, and we got a coach from Wales, a man by the name of Alf Sherwood. He came to coach us, and we played the preliminary games, and then we were ball boys through it. Coaches, we saw some great players. Dukla Praga had like 7 or 8 guys from the national team of Czechoslovakia. Masopus, Kuchera, Bayern Munich was there. West Ham with Bobby Moore. There was a team by the name of Bangu from Brazil with a young player by the name of Ademir Dagia. He was 17 years old. Eventually, he played for I forgot the name of the team, but he was a great player. Never made it with the national team. He was a team player for the for a club team, but for the national team, he didn't play as well. So we we were trained by an excellent coach, and then we watched. That's one thing that I asked the. I always tell the young players, you know, you got to watch players play, and then you try to do the same thing. I remember when I was young, I used to see all these kids play basketball. They had no coaching, but they played 5 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
And this is not, we don't do this in the United States, where they just play pickup games. I in Costa Rica, we play pickup games all the time, and that's how we learned the game. In those days, we had no coaches, but we watched the players, and then we try to imitate what the players did. And
Right.
then when I came to this country, I started playing organized soccer when I was 14 years old. But you know, I think young coaches also, they have to look at games, and the young coaches have to tell their players, to see, like, Premier Soccer, La Liga, the teams in Holland, all the European teams, because you're able to see great players. Look, for for the first time, we are beginning to export players to Europe. You saw those three guys on Sunday, uh, one playing in Germany, one playing in Spain, and another one playing in Italy, and the three of them scored goals.
Right.
Because now, with the soccer that they're getting, the experiences from the MLS clubs, you know, they're playing against tough competition, and they're playing every day. I mean, I always tell players, you have to love the game. You have to sleep with the soccer ball. You have to love the game. I remember I was the director for the Pelé soccer camps from 1978 to 82. And here, yeah, here we're teaching one against one. And Pelé retired in 1977. So in 78, Pelé and Professor Massey said to me, says, Arnold, we want to start the Pelé soccer camps, and maybe we could do it at your school. At there, it was at that time we were at Manhattanville College. We used to have 350 kids per week, and Pelé and I did all the demonstrations. So Pelé used to tell the players, the campers, a cow eats grass. The soccer ball is made out of cowhide. So the soccer ball obviously feels very, very comfortable on grass. So that's why we should try to keep the ball on the ground as much as possible. And then he used to tell us, he says, remember, the soccer ball has no brains. You have to tell the ball what to do, because the ball doesn't know what to do. So you have to be able to control it. You have to love the ball. You have to feel comfortable. And by loving the ball stays close to you. If you don't love the ball is going to go away from you all the time. So, Pelé, Professor Mazzei were some of my mentors, along with Cesar Menotti, and we used to, I used to. That's Cesar Menotti. I used to go to the training sessions of Atletico Madrid when he coached Atletico Madrid. But I first met him when he gave us a lecture to the Pelé soccer camp staff back in 1977. He came and he gave us a lecture. It was a great lecture about the game. It's a simple game. but sometimes we as coaches, we make it very difficult. And he used to say that he loved when he had players that knew what to do with the ball. When he first started coaching the national team, nobody believed in him in Argentina because he was a new coach and he had all new players. And I remember him saying to us, you know how I started teaching my players who were going to be in the World Cup, how I started teaching them. I took them to this forest and there was a big log. And I asked one player, try to lift that log. I can't. Okay, another player, until all the players came and they lifted the log. So you see, if all of us work together, we're able to do great things, you know. So in February of '78, that's when the Argentinian uh, started in believing in Cesar Menotti. By the way, Jim, the final game, I think, wasn't it Holland against
Yeah.
again, and Holland was playing a great game. I mean, they made like 20, 30 different passes, you know, and eventually Argentina won the championship. But you know, kids have to know, and young coaches have to teach the basic skills: how to dribble, how to pass, how to shoot, how to control the ball, how to turn with the inside of the foot, how to turn with the outside of the foot, how to protect the ball by using the sole of the foot. A lot of these kids, you know, they get to high school and 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 they don't know what to do with the ball. I mean, now because we have these elite teams and we have excellent coaches who are teaching in you know at the youth level for the different MLS teams. Now things are getting better, but coaches have to teach the basic skills. Without the basic skills, you can't play this game. You know, it's just going to be like a kick and run, kick and run. And here, Pele used to, we did a lot of 1v1s because Pele used to say, if we teach if we teach the kids how to get by a player, how to defend 1v1, if we win 50% of the 1v1 uh, duels, we're probably going to win the game. And I tell you, having Pele, and Pele was there all the time. It wasn't like Pele was there for an hour and then no. Pele lived there. We had four groups. We had the 8 and 9 year olds. They were called Pelecinos, and 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 they played, you know, small sided games, 4 against 4, 5 against 5. Then we had 10 and 11 year olds. They were called Dicos because his family calls him Dico. Then we had the 12 and 13 year olds. They were called Edsons, and then the 14 to 16 they were called Pelés. And we were out on the field 7 in the morning doing a circuit training. Then we would have breakfast, and then we would come to the field and we do the demonstrations. And then after the demonstrations, each coach would go with his team and work on what we demonstrated. And then in the afternoon, we played small sided games. Then we played league games. And then at night, we showed the Pelé pictures of the Pelé films. You know, the Pepsi films.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Uh, by the way, the person who wrote the Pelé films was or is Paul Gardner. Paul Gardner. He's a soccer writer, and he went to Brazil to Santos, and they made these, and I still think that these instructional films by Pelé are still probably the best instructional films because it's got everything: dribbling, passing, heading, controlling the ball, fitness with the ball. And I learned so much from them, from when I was a young coach. I started off at NYU as an assistant coach. We went to give clinics in Japan. We went to Aomori and we went to Tokyo, and we had like 400 kids. And what we did stations, and we were there for 2 weeks at a time. We went in '93 and in 1996. But as a young coach, I started. Once I graduated in what I wanted to do, not business administration. Once I graduated, I majored in physical education, and Coach Vargas asked me to become his assistant coach at NYU in 1970. So what I did was I went to Coach Matchnick was my coach at NYU, but Coach Vargas asked me to become his assistant coach in 1970, and then in '72 I took over the team because he didn't want to coach anymore. And then I coached there until '75. They sold the Uptown campus, so I went to Manhattanville College for 2 years, and then I went to LIU. But when I was at NYU, I during the summers I would go to watch the training sessions of Real Madrid preseason because the coach of before that, Miguel Munoz, was a coach of Real Madrid, and he was best friends with my father-in-law. So when my father-in-law told Miguel Munoz that I was a coach, he would pick me up in this little town, Cercedilla, take me to the practice sessions. They practiced for 2 hours, and then he would bring me back. And then I would always be he. He's been the most successful coach that Real Madrid ever had. Uh, he played for Real Madrid for 10 years, and then he coached Real Madrid for 14 years, and he's the winningest coach in the history of Real Madrid. And what a gentleman! What a down to earth person! He we would talk about the game. What do you think about the practice? I came here to learn from you. But it's an incredible practice because they had great players, Gento, Santillana, Socco, Amancio. I mean, they had some excellent players. And so as a young coach, I would go, to see his training sessions. And then I went for my C license with Denmark Kramer, and that's when I said to myself, "Wow, what a difference between coaching and playing the game. Completely two different things because a coach has to be a teacher." That's why Pelé always says, "Arnold, I could never be a coach because I can't teach the game. I know what to do, but I can't teach the game." And that's why sometimes, except for a few coaches like Cruyff, uh, who were very successful, who one of the top players in the world. Most of the like Maradona was never a good coach. He Hugo Sanchez, who played for me, he was never a good coach. So Pelé always said, "No, I don't want to coach." So what he wanted to do was, be with, teach the young kids, the game, and what better player to teach the game than Pelé? I mean, he he's still a great person. he's still a very humble person, and he's 80 years old. So then I went for my B license again with Denmark Kramer, and then Denmark Kramer left, and then we had Tiswitz for our A. I was the 93rd coach to receive the A license, and then when I went for my A refresher, my good friend Joe Maroney was there. We took our refresher course together, and you know, as a coach, you're always learning. And one thing you learn from good coaches, and you learn from the bad coaches. From the bad coaches, you learn to do things that you shouldn't do. But I was very fortunate. I had excellent coaches. Uh, there was one there was one coach when Coach Matchnik left to New Haven. We Coach Matchnik. We got a new coach, um, and he came from Brown University, and he came to teach us the game, and he wanted us to wear jackets all the time. None of us had jackets. We were all city kids. He came from a completely different background, and supposedly he was a very good player when he played, but he we were not happy with him. The athletic director introduced him, and he has a lot of international experience. So Marcel Lebec, one of our players, he says, what kind of international experience do you have? And he said, I coached seventh graders in Canada. That was the end of our season. Fortunately for him, he was able to get a very good assistant coach. Oh, and then he used to put guys in and out. At nights, I used to dream with a horn. I used to wake up, Julia. I was married there. Julia, the horn. What do you mean the horn? I was dreaming with a stupid horn because he would put in five guys in, five guys out, and our kids were not used to that. Most were city kids, um, who were able to play the game for 90 minutes, not 10, 20 minutes, and then there was no fluidity to the game. Anyway, he got a very good assistant coach from the city, and then they did well. But he became a lawyer, and he left soccer. So then when I went to from Manhattan College, I was there 2 years. Uh, I got the job at Long Island University as a head coach in 1979, and I was there for 20 years. After 18 years, we had we had some great athletic directors, but then we got a new. She got cancer. She was my assistant coach's wife, and she died of cancer. That's Chinapu number 14. Chinapu. He had some shot, but anyway, after my 19th year, the athletic director was getting rid of a lot of coaches. He wanted new coaches. He didn't fire me the first year because we went to the playoffs. But the following year, he fired me, and I didn't know what to do. So I was a little bit depressed, as a coach. 20 years coaching there, and then my former athletic director at LIU said to me, Arnie, we need a women's coach. I had Ramapo, Division III. I said, Paul, I never coach women. So he says to me, how long have you been married? 34 years. Oh, you can coach women. If you've been married 34 years, you can coach women. So I coached women for 11 years, and it was a very nice experience, but it was Division III, and the players were not all of them, but they didn't have the passion that I had. I remember the first game that I was coaching. We lost the game. I think it was 3-0. On the way back, the girl started singing, and I said, "Excuse me, ladies, we just lost the game, and you girls are singing. What is going on? I'm not used to that. If your coaches before that let you do that, not me. I want you, each one of you, to go over the game while we're traveling to go to Ramapo and think why did we lose the game? Because the best coach is not Jim, the best coach is not John, the best coach is not Joe Moroni. The best coach is the game. The game teaches us what we have to do." So after that, we straightened things out with them. But the first year was it was tough because they weren't used to training preseason 3 times a day, and then I think it was Memorial Day or one of those. Coach, can we go home to be with our parents? It was sometime in September. I don't know what.
Labor Day.
So I said, no, we're in preseason. We have to train in order to get better and start our season. But it was a great experience coaching the women. I enjoyed it, and so I coached for 40 years altogether. And then while I was coaching, I was doing other things. For example, in 1992, the president of the Puerto Rican national team said to me, he says, "Arnie, I need your help." I said, "What do you mean?" Because we used to go for training, preseason training in Puerto Rico. He says, "I just fired the coach, the Brazilian coach, and all the players are refusing to play for the team. And in 2 months, we have our first qualifying game. It's the first qualifying game against Dominican Republic for the World Cup '94. So I said, well, I could find out. So I called Guido Tognoni, who was in charge of the games, And I said, Guido, who can play for the national team of Puerto Rico? So he goes, anybody who has the passport of the country. Well, the country is the United States. Puerto Ricans have a passport of the United States. So what I did was I picked Italian Americans, German Americans, a couple of Puerto Ricans, and we trained at LIU. And we went down to Dominican Republic, and the coach of the Dominican Republic was a German coach who the federation sent him to coach the Dominican team. And so when the FIFA guy looks at all the passports, the German coach says, "These are United States passports. Where are the Puerto Rican passports?" So the FIFA guy said, "No. Puerto Rican. Oh, United States can have 2 teams. Anyway, we beat the Dominican the first time ever. We beat them 1-2. They scored 1 goal. We scored 2. Chico Woda's brother scored a goal, the winning goal, and Joe Cosio. Joe Cosio played for Loyola. He played on that team, but we scored 2 goals. We beat them, and then we lost to Jamaica. We tied Jamaica. lost to Jamaica and Jamaica 2-1. But it was the first time ever that we had, done so well. And I coached a Puerto Rican team for a couple more years. We went from 207th in the rankings to 93rd. We started beating Barbados, St. Martin, all the island teams we started beating. And we had a very nice team, by the way. It was mostly guys from the city, So I did that. And then in 1996, I became, when the league started in January, I became one of 8 evaluators to start the Major League Soccer. This was in California, and we were there for 2 weeks. And our head coach was Rinos Mikkels. I'm sure I sent you a picture of Rinos with him, and he said, we have to pick the best players of the average players. He says, that's very hard to do. So, we picked the players, and then the coaches, each coach, the players that he wanted, and that's how the league started. He wanted my players, and that's why I wear the Timber shirt. Giovanni Savarese. 7 of my players from LIU got drafted by MLS clubs, and Giovanni Savarese did very well for the Metro Stars, and then he coached the Cosmos, and then he coached the Timbers now for 3 years. But as a coach, you're always very proud of all your former players, because many of our players they're into soccer. Some became doctors, some became businessmen, but many of them are running soccer schools all over the United States. One of them, Álvaro Arco, is the general manager for San Martín de Porras in Peru. So a lot of my players, I still keep in touch with them, because through Facebook, I'm able to keep in touch with players from Argentina, Peru, Bolivia, Colombia. This guy's a great player for Saprissa. That's my favorite soccer team in Costa Rica. But I still keep in touch with most of my players, which is a great thing, because I see how great they're doing once they graduated college. Some of them play pro, others went into business. So it's been I had 40 great years as a coach. I'm trying to think what else
Arnie, tell us a little bit about some of these teams and about that indoor tournament.
Well, we won. I sent you 5 pictures of the championship teams that we had. We used to go to when we went. UConn always had an excellent indoor tournament, and in the spring, we used to practice in our gym. It was the old Brooklyn Paramount Theater, where Frank Sinatra started singing, but they turned it into a gymnasium. So we used to practice every morning from 6 to 8 in the morning, because in those days we could play many indoor tournaments and games. But then I think in 1995 they changed the rules, NCAA, and you could only play 6 outdoor games. But before that, we used to train every day, and And for us, the Yukon tournament was just a great play. We played April 2nd and April 3rd. And I remember many times going to stores, and either the 2nd or the 3rd it would snow. Uh, and we used to really work hard. Juan Carlos Osorio, who in those days he had played for University of New Haven, but then he was living in New York. He used to come and train with us as well. He became later the national team for Mexico. Uh, uh, the Mexicans hated him, but he did beat Germany. They beat Germany. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah.
They won 1-0, and Chucky Lozano is the one that scored the goal. So kidding around, I wrote on Facebook to my German friends, tomorrow Mexico will win 1-0 and Chucky Lozano is going to score the goal. It just, it was just a guess, but I was so glad that he, and then I gave him his first coaching license. That's another thing that as a coach you could do. We used to certify coaches. We used to give the D license, and we went all over New York State giving the D license. And Juan Carlos Osorio took the first license with us. I mean, he now has his UEFA license, but yeah, we gave him his D license to begin with. So, we had this Yukon tournament had always 32 teams, and we played in two gyms: a beautiful gym, and then a not so beautiful gym, and that's where Joe Moroni used to put us all the time at the beginning, in the not so beautiful gym. But then when we got to the next group, then we started playing in the regular gym, which was much bigger. And because we had so many technical players, we did well in that tournament. Like I said, we at least 5 times. And he always had the same referees. I don't know if you noticed the pictures. Look at the referees there. You look at another picture, it's the same referees. We always had the same referees in the final. And another thing, we used to, the night before the tournament, we would go to Joe Moroni's house, and all the coaches would get together, and he and his wife were great guests. They served us good food, and then the next day it was playing. But Joe Moroni, a couple of times when we beat him, he must have broken about 5. What do you call those?
Clipboard.
Yeah, clipboard. Yeah. He always carried a clipboard, and whenever he get angry, boom, he would break the clipboard, and then they had to bring another clipboard. But I got along well with him. He did so much for college soccer. He was always like our leader when it came to at the coaches convention. So the coaches convention is also a great place for coaches, young and old, to go there and watch some of the sessions that are given by excellent coaches. Next year will be I think it's my 50th year. I started in the coaches organization back in 1972, when there were only about 100 of us. It was mostly college coaches, and then my first few years in Division I, there were only 4 Latino coaches. It was me. It was Sagastume from Air Force Academy. At North Carolina State, we had
George Tarantini.
George Tarantini, and Jose Esgoraiga from San Jose State. We were the only four Latino coaches in Division One in those days, and because we were just a few Latino coaches. Every time I gave a lecture or a clinic, I always try to do my best, so they couldn't say, "Oh man, this guy, he doesn't know what he's doing." Always try to be very professional, always dress properly, always set an example for your players. I think the most important thing that a coach should have is to be very honest with his players, um, and always keep your door open during the season, off the season, so they could come and talk to you. In college, I never had any problems with players saying, "How come I didn't play much?" No, no. When I started coaching women, the first few weeks, I get a phone call from a mother, and she says, "Coach Ramirez, yes, I'd like to talk to you about my daughter." "Well, what about your daughter? Who's your daughter?" "Well, so and so." So, because she's not getting much playing time. So I said, "Ma'am, um, you don't play for Ramapo College. Your daughter plays for Ramapo College. If your daughter has something to say to me, she should come over and talk to me." But she never did, because they knew that she knew that they were better players. I mean, a lot of these kids in high school, um, they're very fast, but they have no skill. So there was a girl, I forgot from Jersey City, one of the high schools. She scored like 80 goals in 4 years. She came to Ramapo, and there were fullbacks that were just as fast or faster than her. So she wasn't able to do much anymore, because before she just had speed, and boom, nobody could catch her. So one day after lunch, she says to me, "Coach, I want to speak to you." "Yes." "I don't want to play soccer anymore. I hate soccer. My parents made me play soccer for 4 years, and I can't stand it anymore." So I said, "Look, give it a couple more days." "No, no, I'm not. I'm not as good as I thought I was. I can get past the she was a left. Uh, she played left wing. She couldn't get past the defenders." So and that's another thing, as a coach, you have to be able to speak to the parents. So I called the parents and I said, "Listen, your daughter is in preseason, but she doesn't want to play soccer anymore." "Oh no, my daughter, she's not a quitter." I said, "Did you hear what I just said? Your daughter doesn't want to play soccer anymore. She wants you to come up here to Ramapo, pick her up, and take her. We just bought her a new car because she's on the soccer team." I mean, I can't. What? That's not possible. It is, well, it is possible. So they came. Both parents came. The three of them cried, and they took her home. Sometimes, a lot of the high school kids, they think they're better than what they really are. But what they don't know is that there are kids who love the game, who have passion, who are playing the game every single day, whether it's a pickup game or just practicing by themselves, and this is what young kids have to do. Sure, juggling doesn't do much, but you know what? It helps. it helps control. It helped me on my with my left foot. I used to be righty, but then because I juggled so much with my with both feet, I started juggling with my left, and then I became a lefty. So and then when I was in the army, I played left wing, and we played all over Germany, and we had an excellent team. We trained every day from 9 to 11, from 2:30 to 4:30, and then we were off. And then we played in a league Sundays. We played in a German league, and we did very well. And some of us also played because we were part of Schwaben Augsburg, which is it was a Landesliga team, like a third division team. Sometimes they would call me and a couple of other guys to play for Schwaben Augsburg. And we played in the snow, we played in the cold weather, but we did something that we loved. And when I used to give the coaching courses, I used to say, you as a coach, even though you have another job, you have to be passionate. You have to show that you love the game, and this will go a long way with your players. And most, I would say 98% of the players that I had were very passionate about the game. There was one girl, she wrote me a letter after she graduated, and she said, "Coach, I don't understand. Why are you so passionate about the game? Why do you get angry at yourself when you lose a game? It's us who lose the game." Yeah, but still, I said, you don't understand. I grew up in Costa Rica where everybody just plays soccer. There's so much passion about the game. And then you come here and there was hardly any soccer. But then when we get to high school, I was in that ambience where, we all love the game and we try to play as much as possible. Even on Saturdays, we had no practice. I would go to Central Park and have pickup games, or up in Van Cortlandt Park and have pickup games. So I try to play as much as possible. I played up until I was 65, and then I gave it up because I couldn't do it anymore. I knew what to do here, but then with my feet, I couldn't do it anymore. So I stopped. And then I used to be a coach that I used to be able to teach and demonstrate. And, after age 65, I wasn't able to do that anymore. So I completely stopped. I mean, but, now that I'm getting older, I become very sentimental about, being able to play with, being able to demonstrate with what I think the greatest soccer player in the world, because people. I was in a program recently when Pelé was 80 years old, and they asked me, Pelé never played in Europe. I said, of course not. Pelé never played in Europe because in those days the European teams were not so good. Pelé at age 17 scored 3 goals against France in the 1958 semifinals. In the finals, at age 17, he scored 2 goals against Sweden, 5 goals in the semifinals and finals. And he did it against European teams. And when Santos of Brazil used to go on their European tours, they would beat Benfica, they would beat Real Madrid, they would beat Inter Milan, So the best players in those days were in Brazil. So he didn't have to go anywhere. And he couldn't go anywhere because they made him a national treasure. So he was not able to go until they convinced him that you could come to the Cosmos and then start something new. I mean, there was soccer before Pelé, but once Pelé came, the game got noticed more. I remember being at a press conference in 1975 with Professor Mazzei and in Club 82, and there were hundreds of media people. You know, they wanted to know about the Pelé signing and how he was going to do with with the Cosmos. And I don't know if you remember the game when they played against Dallas. They played in Randall's Island. So it was his first game. 25,000 people showed up. So Randall's Island is a terrible field. So they painted the field green because, you know, this way they wouldn't be able to see the bad parts of the field. So at halftime of the game, Pele's feet are itching. And he tells Professor, my feet are itching. I don't know why. So he takes off his shoe and he takes off his sock and it's all green. His feet are all green. And he goes, what? I don't think I want to play here anymore because look what happened. I got a fungus. No, Pelé, that's not a fungus. What happened was they had to paint the field green so that you could see it better on television. but you know, and then he I used to come to the training sessions because when I first met Pelé, Joey Fink called me up and he said, "Do we still have time, or what time is it now?"
Yeah, we have a little time. Yep.
Yeah. I first met Pelé in '75. Joey Fink, who played for me at NYU, called me up and he said, "Coach, we have a new assistant coach, and his name is Professor Julie Mazzei, and he wants his son to go to NYU, but he's not a soccer player, but if you could help him get in." So I went there. It was at Hofstra University, and that's when I met Pelé, Professor, for the first time, and then I took Professor and Julinho to NYU. But when I was waiting for Pelé to come out, Professor had come out already, but Pelé was showering. Joe Namath went by, and there were guys who wanted his autograph, but he left. So the next morning, I go to the training session again, and Joe Namath comes out, and he signed a couple of autographs because he saw that Pelé the day before taught him a lesson that, hey, here's Pelé, a great player, and he's signing autographs. And I just left, and it came out in the New York Post. Pelé teaches Joe Namath a lesson in humility. And then they became good friends. But he was such a humble person, Pelé. I can. If Pelé would play today, he could, with all the training methods and all the nutritional methods, he would be the greatest player because he was a complete player. He could at the ball, frontal, side, the other side. He could kick with his left, with his right foot. He had tremendous speed, And in those days, they used to sometimes triple mark him, But like I said, what player nowadays is going to score 3 goals in the semifinals and 2 goals in the finals at age 17? It's going to be hard,
And the other difference is they were allowed to foul so much more. now. I mean, it's amazing those guys lasted with the fouling. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why now he has a hard time walking
Mm.
because so many injuries. So, Jim, any more questions, and maybe about coaching or?
Arnie, this has been fantastic. I just want to say a couple things. Michael Boyd says,
Oh, Michael Boyd played
ahead
for
of his time, favorite coach and great friend.
yeah, he played for me at Blomstrann.
Victor Santos says, nice to see you and hear you.
Oh, Victor, and we used to coach against Quinnipiac.
Yeah, yeah.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah,
Obrigado,
when I first started playing in the Connecticut Soccer League, I played on a team called New Britain Generalissimo, and Victor was on the Hartford Portuguese, and he introduced me to the Sunday League in his own way.
The Ukrainian used to play in the league as well. I played against him a couple of times.
Yeah.
Bob the Ukrainian.
Yeah, great man.
Yeah.
Listen, Arnie, we're going to close it up now. So thank you so much. I could sit here and listen to you for 3 more hours, but we only have the 1 hour. So,
all right.
So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Stories.
Okay,
And
good night, everybody.
Passion. There's got to be a lot of passion as a coach, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of passion. So you could transmit the passion to the players.
That's right.
Very, very important. All right.